Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Virtual assistants. How many do you need? I don't know. We'll talk about it today. Hello everyone and welcome back to Advanced Studio Classroom. My name is Brandon. Today we continue with our technology article. Back in the studio with me is Amanda.
Hello, Brandon.
And Albert.
It's good to be back.
Yesterday we started off talking about virtual assistants and how hopefully they will give you more free time. Amanda, what is something from yesterday that you would like to remind our listeners of?
Well, I think that it was important to know that there are different kinds of technology out there. We learned that there are titans of tech, which are companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They are locked in an epic battle of the bots. And I think we think of like robots fighting each other when we think of that in our minds. But here we're talking about them just competing for us, the consumer, competing for our money.
All right. Albert, something else from yesterday?
Well, just to kind of build on what Amanda was talking about, I feel like, there's so many companies and, the smartest companies and the biggest companies working to, get that foothold into our homes and lives. And I feel like it's really good for us as a consumer. You mentioned yesterday that competition is always healthy for the consumer. It makes people not complacent and it makes products and services better.
All right, but how many of these assistants do you need? I mentioned something about that at the top of this program, but yesterday we talked about, is one assistant enough? Or maybe you need a few assistants. We don't really know yet, and it depends on the person, I think, and it depends on how specialized the assistants are. So that's something to consider as you maybe want to make a purchase. Maybe you want to buy one of these devices. Of course, some of your phones come with these already, and which is helpful. But we're waiting for that next big, highly effective help bot to come out. And we talked about getting that foothold in a consumer's home, phone, or car at the end of yesterday. That's kind of where we left off. And today we're continuing our talk about virtual assistants. So if you have your magazines, if you could open them to page 37, or you can follow along on your phone or tablet, we will have our first reading for today.
Solidifying your needs. In order for a virtual helpmate to run your life, it needs to engage with the providers of all the services you rely on, from your calendar app to your Uber ride. Those providers must either partner with the company operating the assistant or design their app to integrate with the assistant. So Spotify will stream music upon request via Alexa, and Honeywell's smart home thermostat via Assistant will bump up the temperature 15 minutes before grandma's expected arrival. For all the major players, virtual assistants provide important data that fuels the AI that powers and improves them, making both the assistants and the products they live in ever more marketable. For Amazon, Alexa is an enthusiastic purchasing agent for the e-commerce that drives the firm. For Google, Assistant is a turbocharged vacuum for the data the company collects to sell ads targeted directly at users.
Solidifying your needs. We start off with a great word there, solidify, to become or make something become certain. And so we want to, if you want to solidify something, what are you really trying to do?
I feel like it's like, I imagine making something concrete, like, just solid.
All right. Okay, so we want, those needs to be solidified, and we want to know that our needs are going to be met.
Right. This is going off yesterday, the final paragraph we talked about yesterday, where we said that, these bots will have somewhat specialized expertise, right? Whether we learned yesterday Google's Assistant is good at excelling in providing knowledge or managing your schedule, or Microsoft's Cortana is leading on gaming. But what do we, the consumer, need, right?
Right. Well, in order for a virtual helpmate, so we have another way of describing it here. We've talked about bots and assistants. Now we're calling it a helpmate. It's getting a little more intimate here, I guess. A virtual helpmate to run your life, it needs to engage with the providers of all the services you rely on. So there needs to be communication between all the devices, and it needs to know the proper information, right?
Right. What things you use on your phone, like, Albert, you mentioned about your calendar, right?
Right. Now, I feel like this is where the companies kind of start differing a little bit. I looked into it. Different companies like Apple promises that all the information stays on your phone. It's not uploaded to the server. And if any information is uploaded, it'll be randomized, so nobody can really trace it back to you. Whereas Google, when you activate its assistant, it will give you like this 10-page user agreement where it's like, hey, we're going to, take your data. We promise not to do anything bad with it, but it's going to be uploaded to the cloud. And so, there's some just like this divergence between companies where like they're differing in the approach.
Okay, so they give some examples here. It can interact, of course, with your calendar app, or, maybe you have an Uber app. And you want to order a ride, it can help you with that, I guess, if it has the proper information.
Right. And I think it just depends what apps you yourself or the consumer has on their phone. It could be ordering food, could be finding out when the next bus is coming. It could be a variety of apps that you're using quite frequently on your phone. And so you want that to correlate with this assistant on your phone.
Okay, and there needs to be, cooperation between the companies and these assistants. Those providers, they must either partner with the company operating the assistant or design their app to integrate with the assistant. If you integrate, it means you kind of join together, right? It kind of meshes together. It's another way to connect, right? So they want to connect, have everything well connected. The more connected everything is, the more helpful it will be to us as an assistant, right?
Right. It has more information about like what you like and don't like and what you do.
Right. So Spotify will stream music upon request via Alexa. So you just ask Alexa to play a song, but you have to have it set up, so Spotify, connects with it, or I guess give it permission, I think. And then I believe it will just play the song that you ask it to play.
Right. The setup process is kind of like if you guys ever use Facebook and you go to like maybe another website and it's like a newspaper publication, you're like, I want to leave a comment. And then you can just integrate your Facebook profile into it. And it's like, yes, please use my Facebook information and I can comment as myself. So it's kind of like that where your Spotify has like a profile too where you link it to Alexa.
Right. Okay, and we have that on our website as far as Facebook is integrated with our website. You go into studioclassroom.com and you can leave a comment there, and it's using Facebook.
Right. Please do leave us a comment.
Yes, please leave us your comments, your thoughts about this topic or any of the topics from this month or any month. And we have another example here there, starting in line 8. It talks about Honeywell's smart home thermostat. We've talked about these smart thermostats before, but if you have an assistant that can connect with that, the smart home thermostat, then you can maybe speak to it or do something where you don't have to do it yourself.
Right. You could be coming home, you could be driving home and you ask the assistant to increase the temperature in your home so that it's nice and cozy for you once you get home. And that's what it's talking about here. It will bump up the temperature 15 minutes before Grandma's expected arrival. Here, bump up meaning to increase. And so perhaps Grandma likes temperature a little bit warmer in the house than yourself. And so she's coming and you're able able to just tell the assistant to do that, and it will do that. But one question I have is, so what we're saying here is different apps will work with different companies. Is that correct? So, for example, will Spotify be able to be used by the other apps?
It may be
the other
based
help bots?
on their agreement with that company. I'm not sure exactly if that all works the same, and it might depend on the help bot, the assistant, and what it can do. It may look a little different, even if you can use it with other devices.
Right. I've seen some products where when you buy something now, it would tell you like which assistant it's compatible with, and it also has some details like maybe like, oh, if you use it with Apple's products, you might not have X amount of control over it. You might be missing a feature or two. But I feel like it's really overall, the idea is really basic. It just needs to connect to Wi-Fi and needs to have its own software, and then it can interact with anything out there, really.
Okay.
Well, for all the major players, virtual assistants provide important data that fuels the AI that powers and improves them. So this is a little bit complicated here. So we are talking about the major players, meaning, like Apple and Amazon, the major businesses here. And then they go into talking about the virtual assistants and how they provide important data. And then we talk about artificial intelligence. What is this really meaning here?
Yeah, so, we have, these virtual assistants on our phones, like Siri, for example, and they are collecting information about us. Whenever we ask them a question, they'll remember it. And based on the company will either have the assistant send information back to headquarters, and they'll collect everything. They'll collect all this data so they can get a better picture of what people want, what's trending, what they're looking for, and then, they'll also collect like when they made a mistake. And afterwards, they'll improve upon that, and it will go back to the assistant. So the next time they help us out, they will be more accurate and they'll better predict what we want.
Because they're more accurate, that helps the assistants and the products they live in more marketable as well. And so because they are becoming better and better, kind of smarter and smarter in a sense, that makes them more marketable.
Right. Like you mentioned earlier, like if the assistants are not smart, then, it would become like a hassle or chore. Like I don't want to keep correcting the virtual assistant. Like when I ask like, oh, will it rain today? If it doesn't know where I'm at, then it's not going to know. It's going to be like, oh, where do you live? Or if it gives me like a weather forecast for somewhere else, it's not helpful.
Right.
But so yeah, these virtual assistants, I think it's like it makes them so powerful because they're constantly collecting data about us and improving their product. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we get an example here from Amazon. For Amazon, Alexa is an enthusiastic purchasing agent for the e-commerce that drives the firm. Now, if you are familiar with Amazon, which I'm sure most of you are, you can go on their website and purchase things. But here, Alexa is an enthusiastic purchasing agent. And so I'm assuming that you can use Alexa to purchase things on Amazon, right?
Right. I mean, it'll just be like, Alexa, I want to buy a hoverboard. And it'll directly link me to Amazon, the different hoverboards, and then you can choose which one you want. It might even tell you the different kinds and how much they are, and you can purchase it.
Right. I think another example like Amazon was like advertising was like, if you buy, say, Tide laundry detergent, right? It will be able to predict next time, like, how often you use it. So maybe it'll serve you a reminder. It's like, hey, Brandon, are you almost out of laundry detergent? Do you want me to order another one? It'll be here in 2 days.
And, of course, that helps their business. So they're using their own product to help increase their sales, basically. So which is smart marketing. And then we have another example here, the Google Assistant. Okay, it is a turbocharged vacuum for the data the company collects to sell ads targeted directly at users. That word turbocharged. Albert.
Right. So something that's turbocharged is adding more power, speed, or excitement to something or someone. Some people might turbocharge their cars to make it go faster. It's like it's a sped up and version of collecting data. Like these virtual assistants they're all free, and in turn, Google is getting better to know about the demographic, Like people who live in a certain city, they might be better fitted for a certain ad that a company wants to sell. Yeah.
So the Google Assistant is collecting the data, and they're using it to put out ads, right? They're using that information to put together ads or knowing what ads that you may like and so forth.
Right. So, for example, if in a certain area of Taipei they've realized, oh, there's a lot of people that want to eat pizza,
Right.
they'll make sure that the ads about pizza.
And this happens on websites as well. You search something and then later that day or later that week, you see an ad from whatever you were searching about.
Right.
Maybe you're searching for airline tickets, and all of a sudden you see an airline company ad, which is smart, right? And so we see that already online, and they're using this information as well with the Google Assistant. Well, we have much more to learn, so let's go into our next reading for today.
To date. So far, both Google and Amazon have focused largely on home-based assistants. Google's new Pixel phones host Assistant, but it has an uphill battle because Apple has far more phones equipped with Siri on the market, said Tim Baharin, an analyst with market research firm Creative Strategies. Most people want their virtual assistant on their phones, Baharin said. When you're driving, that's critical. Or if your hands are busy, Baharin said. The phone will continue to dominate as the vehicle for delivering the virtual assistant.
Okay, our next section, to date, meaning, what's happened up until this point, right? So far, both Google and Amazon have focused largely on home-based assistants. We have talked about Alexa already. Google also has an assistant. I believe it's called Google Home. And so that is something you can have in your home. You can ask it questions, it'll answer you, and so forth. And next, we are also talking about Google's new Pixel phones host assistant. And so getting a little information there, but it's not easy, right? It's an uphill battle.
Right, and it is an uphill battle because, well, when we say uphill, we mean that it's going to take a lot of effort to overcome what? Overcome Apple, because Apple has far more phones equipped with Siri on the market. In other words, a lot more people carry the iPhone, which has Siri, so they need to overcome that issue.
All right, so Google is in an uphill battle with its new Pixel phones, and it has Assistant there on that phone, but it does have to fight against Apple because, there are more phones out there equipped with Siri on the market. We've all been talking about Siri so far, and this is according to an analyst with a market research firm. And do you agree with this analysis, Albert?
Well, I mean, I'm not the market analyst, but I will say it's super smart of Amazon and Google to go with this approach because I feel like they're hitting a spot where Apple is neglecting, and if they can make it more convenient for you at home, maybe you will switch your phone later on so you can have that, connection. And just to mention about the phones, I feel like there are more Android devices out there, but not all of them have Google Assistant installed. Some of them are not even installed by default. So it's something that you have to do because, Google opens their phones to other companies like Samsung and whatnot. But there are, if anything, I feel like all Apple iPhones have Siri now. I think iPhone 4S and later. So that is why there is more Siri around. So this is why it's an uphill battle for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, most people want their virtual assistant on their phones, according to this research analyst. So what are you going to do? When you're driving, that's critical. Or if your hands are busy, it's important to have that assistant on your phone. And that's where I use my assistant, where I use Siri. I also have Siri on my computer, but I rarely use it on my computer, right? And so I think it's important, of course, to have something on your phone. It's nice to have it in your home, but people are always on their phones, right?
Right. I think your phone is what you carry with you at all times. So it's the most, what I say, convenient,
Yes.
right? It's always with you. So if they can find a way to overcome that too, then that's great. I mean, if devices are specializing in certain things and so the person likes what perhaps Alexa can do in the home, then they're going to use Alexa in the home perhaps and use Siri on the phone, you know. But time will tell with that, I think.
Okay. So it continues, the phone will continue to dominate as the vehicle for delivering the virtual assistant.
I really like how they phrase it, like as dominate as the vehicle for delivering the virtual assistant, because like from what I've seen so far, when you get into a car nowadays, you can connect your phone to the car. Apple has like what they call CarPlay, I think, and then Google has something else. But basically, the phone becomes the computer for processing information. So it's kind of like a good compromise where the cars themselves don't have to be equipped with a computer separately for handling such tasks. So it's like wherever you go, your phone kind of becomes the main device or the vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
So the phone will dominate. If you dominate something, you have control over it, or you're the most important thing or the most important person. And so that's what's happening so far, at least according to this research analyst. Will it dominate in the future? I don't know. Will there be some other device? We'll have to see, but I think Amanda made a good point. We carry our phones around with us everywhere, right? And so that's why it is the tool that is dominating right now. But what's next? Let's find out in our last reading for today.
What's next? While building the Supreme Help Bot is clearly a priority for many major tech firms, experts say the software today lacks the knowledge base to take the next big leap, to enable virtual assistants that can predict our needs to serve us better. Which companies rise to dominance depends both on the capability of their bots and the draw of the gadgets that house them. The story has not been written on what success is going to be in this space. Brett Sappington of market research firm Parks Associates said.
Okay, so what is coming up next? Well, we talk about building the Supreme Help Bot is a priority for many major tech firms. And so we've talked about that already. A supreme help bot, meaning something that is really great, that's above all others.
Right. We talked earlier, yesterday especially, how each various assistant has a specialty. They have a different expertise. But we also talked about how if one of them could get a foothold into a consumer's home, then they would be able to create a barrier for other competitors. So if they are building towards a supreme help bot to get that foothold, then that would be the ultimate goal. But I'm not sure if we're there yet.
Right. Experts are saying the software that we have right now, it actually lacks the knowledge base to take that next big leap. So we may not be there yet. But it says to enable virtual assistants that can predict our needs to serve us better. And so, that's the goal. We want these virtual assistants, to be able to predict our needs, right, Albert?
Right. Again, I think it's just like there's a lot of information, but how you use that information is really key and crucial. I feel like that's kind of applicable to like just daily life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that big leap is getting to that point where those assistants can predict what you want or what you need, and that would be great. If they try to predict it now, it may not come out very well, right?
Hence why they're trying to get all this data to find out, what it is what are the trends, that people are following, what are the things that people are doing. And I think some of this will also come, we haven't talked about it too much in this article, but some of it will also come when we have the Internet of Things, which is connecting each device in your home, again, with this big data that will be able to predict more. For example, you mentioned about Tide. the detergent. You'll need to get some more detergent.
Yes.
But that will happen for nearly everything in your house.
Yeah.
Then they'll be able to predict.
Maybe we'll know that every Friday night I like to eat pepperoni pizza. So there will be a hot pepperoni pizza waiting for me at 6 p.m. when I get home.
Is that actually a good thing for your health, though?
No, that's another article. We're not talking about that. No, it's not. Okay, well, moving on, we see in the next paragraph which companies' rise to dominance depends both on the capability of their bots and the draw of the gadgets that house them. Are they capable? Can they predict, what you want? Are they really smart? Right? And the draw of the gadgets. What do they mean by that, Albert?
Well, the draw of something is like what appeals to you, what pulls you and attracts you to something.
Okay. The market research, a market research analyst here tells us the story has not been written on what success is going to be in this space. Wow. So we don't know yet what exactly is going to happen, but we know that technology is always changing, so just wait a few minutes. Something new will pop up, something else, will be improved on. There's a bright future ahead, and I think we can just try to keep up with what's out there already. That's enough for me, right?
Right, and I think it's interesting for our listeners to know that at the end of yesterday, we said that the industry stands at a critical moment, whether we've been aware of that before or not. But there is this competition currently going on, this epic battle of the bots that is happening between these big titans of tech. And what role we will have to play in that, with what we decide which bot is most helpful to us. Or just to know also, we've talked about big data a lot in other articles as well, how this information is being used to get closer to this goal of being able to predict our needs to service better.
All right. Well, there's a lot here to think about, and after you think about it for a few minutes, take a break, go onto our website, studioclassroom.com, and watch some Topic Talks videos. Watch the videos for this particular article, and you can enjoy some skits there and so forth, so you can go onto our website for that, or just scan the QR code there at the top of page 36. Well, we thank you for joining us today for our technology article, and we hope you will join us again next time here on Advanced Studio Classroom. Until then, this is Brandon,
Amanda,
and Albert
saying goodbye.
Goodbye.